I'm Antuan Hawkins with the Greensboro Public Library. The leaves are changing and the weather is getting cold. That would usually mean that it's time for fall festivals. Well, this year you may just want to get together with your family to tell stories. Now, I personally love family stories and folk tales, but my absolute favorite are scary stories. Now be sure to explore our collection of folk tales, short stories, and fairy tales in our nonfiction collection with the Dewey Decimal numbers 398 or 808. But speaking of short stories, not long ago there lived an old woman in a small house near the library. Now the old woman lived all by herself, and each day she would tend her garden. And at the end of the day, well, she would collect some of the fruits and the vegetables, just enough for dinner. Well, one day, when she was tending her garden, as usual, she saw something quite peculiar sticking up right through the tomato plants. She saw something curious. She saw what looked to be a big hairy toe. Strange, she thought. Well, after thinking about it, the old woman decided to, well, just bring in the big hairy toe for dinner. It had a lot of good meat on it, after all. Well, that night, she prepared a delicious stew, and it was the best dinner she had in a long time. She just gobbled it up, and it was gone. Well, that night, she was so full that after dinner, she went upstairs to her bedroom and fell fast asleep. But later that night, well, a strong wind started to blow. Well, and it made the trees sway and swing dangerously. And well, it made all the creatures shiver in the cold, and the brightness of the moon was covered with the dark, dark clouds. And through this cold, windy, dark night came a scary, hollow sound. Where's my hairy toe? It howled as it rolled on the wind. Well, the old lady, she turned in her bed and shivered. Well, soon she heard her front gate slowly squeak open. Squeak! And well, the wind picked up again, making the old woman's cottage creak excessively. Now the howling wind, it carried a dreadful moan that just sounded louder and louder. Where's my hairy toe? Well, the old lady's eyes, it popped open. Well, when she heard the voice, it just got closer and closer. Well, she was extremely scared, and she shook with fright. Well, without any delay, she jumped up out of her bed and locked the doors and secured the windows. And she locked up every single thing in her house, and she quickly jumped back in the bed. Well, the old lady, she whispered, "Oh, I'm sure I'm safe now." But she slowly pulled the covers up over her. Well, she was wrong. No sooner that she jumped into that bed, the old woman heard footsteps echoing in her front yard and started to come up her rickety porch. Well, the old woman heard the sound getting closer with every passing second. Where's my hairy toe? And it echoed throughout the house. Well, the old woman, she couldn't do anything but shiver and shake in her bed, and she heard these footsteps echoing all through her house and approaching her bed. Well, the big feet stomped up, right up to the edge of the bed, and she heard again, "Who's got my hairy toe?" Well, the covers were pulled over her head, and then when she pulled them off and through, she said, "I ate it." Well, when she did, she looked around her room, and she didn't see anyone. But she got up out of her bed and looked out her window, and she slowly saw her gate close back, just as it was before. Well, she went back to sleep and didn't think of it until the next morning, and when she went out to tend the garden as she normally would have, well, the only thing that was left was a big, gigantic footprint right in the garden, and that footprint was missing a big, hairy toe. But be sure to check out our short story collection in the 398s and the 808s. I'm Antuan Hawkins with the Greensboro Public Library.